Okay. This is the Ped Bike Transit Committee meeting for May 26th. Katie, I'll turn it over to you to call the meeting.
All right, I call this meeting of the Pedestrian Bike Transit Committee to order at 5:17 p.m. on May 26th. Do we need to do any roll call, Mark, or do you have it?
Sure, I'll just mention who's present. Jim Schutz, Katie Nelson, Ken Marquardt, Peter Connor, Dana Minogue, Pat Trainer, and we are also joined by Kathy Olson-Alder, who's not a member of the committee.
Okay.
So I'm here as staff, and we have George Zenz also observing the meeting in case anyone didn't know that. So we have a quorum.
All right, first item is approval of the minutes of April 14th. Does anyone have any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Oh, Jim, you're on mute. Did you?
So moved.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on to the discussion and action items. First one being the North Mendota Trail, the award of bid to construct the east segment. Mark, is this something you're taking on?
Sure, yeah, I can walk through these items if that's okay with you.
Mhm.
So I'm delighted to report that we got two bids. Both of them were under the engineer's estimate, and which I really was worried was not going to happen because we didn't get bids the first time, as you'll recall, in April. So Kale Engineering has reviewed the bidding responses and has determined that everything's in order with the low bidder, which is Badgerland Excavating Corporation. And the bid tab is in your packet. I know, I assume you've looked at it already, but you'll see the engineer estimate here was $817,000, and they are $83,000 below the engineer's estimate, which is about 10%. It's just really great news for the project, especially in these times, inflationary times. I was worried it was going to be higher. So I'm happy to, so what's before you tonight is to make a recommendation to the Common Council to award the bid. That would be appropriate. And we're joined by Alder Ramsey, by the way.
Great, Dan, I will turn it over to you unless you need a minute.
Give him a little time. Dan, are you there? You're muted if you, here, let me see if I can unmute you. He's on a phone, it looks like. Trying to help him. All right, Katie, why don't you just keep going? We have a quorum.
Sure,
So.
sure,
There he
excellent.
is. Dan, you're unmuted now.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Dan, we just are on the first discussion action item of the award of bid to Badgerland Excavating.
Okay.
At 10% less than the engineers were estimating would come in. And I'm happy to help you out, or if you want to take over from here, go for it.
Oh, well, why don't you just do this item since you already started and know where you're at, and then we have a little
Great.
continuity.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, so we need a motion to approve or deny.
Recommending the motion, recommending approval to
Recommending
the Common
to the
Council.
council.
Yeah.
Ramsey will move to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
That's Peter.
Yep.
Thank you, Peter. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So the motion passes that we'll recommend it to the council. And Dan, you are on for point number 2.
Thank you, Katie. I apologize, everyone, for being late. I had a work thing that went a little long. Okay, agenda item number 2, North Mendota Trail Amendment number 4 to the agreement with KL Engineering. Mark, you want to just give us a synopsis?
Yes, so this is in your packet to, just as we've done with previous phases. This is a proposal to assist the city with construction, well, for doing the construction engineering, construction oversight, management. And that's the bulk of the request. They also are requesting an amendment to address costs that they incurred that were unexpected related to West Segment Phase B, which, as we all recall, went much longer than expected and was more complicated, primarily because of the delays with MG&E. So this is their letter that's in your packet, and then the documentation for what the basis for the $68,000. I don't have anything really to add other than I would recommend approval. I don't think this is unreasonable. There were things outside of their control and the city's control, frankly. And so I talked with our city engineer about this as well, and he didn't say anything out of the ordinary. So I would recommend approval.
Are there any questions from the committee members? Any comments? Oh, there's a comment.
Yeah, Pete has a lot to say. This is Katie. I will move approval on this amendment to the agreement with KL.
Second, Dana.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, first and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
So just to clarify, this is again a recommendation to the council to recommending approval to the council. Just that's what the motion how it will read.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. We move on to item number 3, North Mendota Trail change order for West Segment Phase B. Mark?
Thank you. So the comments are a bit dated because when I wrote the comments yesterday, and then almost immediately after got a revised change order, which I was expecting before the packet was posted. So that's why the comments are a little bit garbled. This change order is with T2 for the purpose of, let me go to the change order here. There it is. So it's in the amount of $4,200, not $32,000, which was the initial amount that was in the packet. And the basis for this is that the creek crossing with the bridge, they had to do some additional excavation below subgrade and add more rocks to stabilize the stream bank and add some heavy riprap. So that increased cost. They had to do that on the spot in the field. It wasn't one of those things where you can just pause and ask for permission. It had to be done. So that's a $4,200 change order. Originally, there was almost about $28,000 of the change order was going to be for paving the path west of Goodwill store, but that has been removed from the change order, leaving you with what's before you tonight. Instead, we are going to have that be a change order to the east segment that you just endorsed tonight. And we feel the reason for that is because the cost that T2 was going to charge for that small project and to mobilize just for that small project, the cost per ton was, I think, $150 a ton, whereas we hope and we expect we would get better pricing doing this in conjunction with the east segment. The downside, of course, is that they won't get paved until the east segment gets paved, but we anticipate that being this year. So I would recommend that you recommend approval to the council of the change order.
Are there any questions or comments from any members? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend approval to the council.
This is Katie. I'll second.
Pete seconded.
Oh, sorry.
No, your dog Pete.
Oh, yeah. That Pete.
And this is confusing because we have Peter Connor, and so he might we're gonna just have to keep that separate.
Peter, as long as we don't call you Pete Moss.
Okay, it's a good
All
name
right.
for that.
Board.
So the motion was by Jim.
Motion to amend
Yeah.
by Jim and a second by
Katie, and yeah, he's
Clearly,
got a
yeah.
lot to say about the Thunder tonight.
all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed, that motion carries. Moving on to the next item. That would be the resolution for complete streets.
Yes, so at long last, after several years, sorry it took so long, I have drafted a policy here that is intended to respond to the goals in the comprehensive plan of establishing a complete streets policy for the city. And this is based on various sources. It borrows heavily from Milwaukee, their complete streets policy, which I read was considered one of the more acclaimed policies. It was adopted in 2018. But I took out, I mean, there was more in there than we needed for ours. And I also looked at La Crosse, which did it by ordinance. I looked at Stevens Point and various other communities, as well as FHWA had some guidance, and the DOT. I thought of another thing to add, but I didn't have a chance to do that this afternoon because of other commitments. But I thought at the very least, you would probably give me feedback today. And if you like it the way it is, great. If not, I can tinker with it for the next meeting as you wish. So that's my back. So basically what I did is I took, obviously there's some background statements linking it to the comprehensive plan and to a regional transportation plan. And then these bullet points here are my summation of the benefits of a complete street policy, what the intent of the policy is. And that's my synthesis of what I saw in several other communities in some of their WAS statements and background. So it's kind of a hybrid. It's various sources. And then I'd seen this, I don't remember which community I saw the reference to the limitations the city has with pedestrian and bicycle way, and someone had pointed that out in theirs. So I just put that in ours. And then the resolve clause is obviously the meat of the substance of the policy. So rather than just going through and reading it, I guess I would entertain any questions you have for me, and obviously whatever discussion you wish to have.
Do any committee members have any questions about this?
Yeah, this is Katie. Mark, what was the item that you wanted to add that you didn't have time to? Is it something that you think you need the time to add?
No, it's not substantive. What I liked about it is it was, and I don't even have it in front of me right now. It was on my mental to-do list today, but then I had a meeting in Westport that I didn't get back from until 10 minutes before this meeting. It was just, let me see if I can have it on my browser here still. It was just how they categorized it. Let me just see here. It basically, I liked how they referred to different categories of policies, whether it was encouragement actions or physical actions that could be taken versus law versus enforcement actions and encouragement, things like that. It was just a way of categorizing, which I wanted to consider. And I just, I'm happy to, obviously we want to have a good policy that you're all comfortable with so that the city can adopt it. And so it was just, it was an organizational technique. It was, that's all it was.
Okay.
Mark, could you explain number 4, the stormwater management should be incorporated or maintained within the public right of way as part of the complete streets when feasible?
Sure. So, and I forgot to mention that I did run this by the city engineer, Sean Stowski, who gave me some suggestions, as well as Daphne, my colleague Daphne also reviewed it. So I forgot to mention that. The stormwater is, I saw this in another community's ordinance. There's actually a movement in several communities to have a green complete streets policy. And I saw this kind of, rather than calling ours a green complete streets, I just incorporated this from another community to make sure that we understand that we still welcome stormwater management, that we see streets as being good for the environment, that designed in a way that's good for the environment and addresses other city objectives like stormwater management. And that it also creates a healthy pedestrian environment. I don't know how else to explain it other than I saw it in another community's policy.
To then, as far as a practical purpose, then for that, and I'm not saying that it's a bad idea at all, but as a practical, would that be something that water resources should look at?
If you wish to do that, I think there's nothing in here that they would. Well, I'm not. That certainly would be.
I'm just from the. Somebody's got to figure out a practical way of incorporating that. Then, if that's going to be our policy, and they would be the group to do that.
The way I interpret this and would apply this is, we obviously we have a policy of having and maintaining street trees. In urban areas, we have tree wells, but obviously where there's grassy terraces, that obviously accommodates stormwater infiltration. So I see this basically as saying, where possible, when accommodating pedestrians, bicyclists, and all of the roadway users, we should also still leave space for stormwater management to benefit stormwater management. That's the intent.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, this is Pat. I had a
Thanks,
couple of, I don't know if they're questions or just suggestions. One thing that you did put in the beginning, in I think your first whereas clause, you had something about recognizing all abilities. And I think that's really important. If I'm remembering right, in a lot of policies, they don't do that. So I think that was really good that you put that regardless of ability in there as well. For all of the next section, and this is just me. If we're going to have a policy, I don't know why we're saying we should do it. I think it should be will do it. And that's just me. And I know most of my colleagues will tell me, oh, it should be shall, not will, but I like will better. So I guess for me, I would prefer that those, I guess it's 2 through about 11, that they all be changed from should. There's a lot of other places in there where if you're concerned about will language, it's in there in other places. So I guess that would be a suggestion. And then on number 3, I wasn't really sure that is unrealistic. I know it's kind of a goal more than anything else, but I'm not sure if we're going to do this. I'm not sure we should kind of shoot low. Maybe we should be aiming a little higher. So for me, I wasn't really sure that looked unrealistic.
Dan, may I respond?
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for those comments. The will, this was drafted, the way I drafted it was with shall statements. One of my colleagues then advised changing it to should. That's obviously that's up to you to decide how you want that, what you want to recommend to the council. But I will say that I drafted it with shall. Will is obviously similar to shall. The other point you made, number 3, that was also feedback I got from a colleague who thought that might be unrealistic. So this is why we're having this discussion, for you to sort through what you'd like the policy to say. I didn't want to just delete it based on his feedback. I wanted to leave it in there since I had proposed it based on some other research I had done, and I wanted you to specifically, address it. I think there's one, at the end of the document, at the end of the resolution, there was another, this was based on Milwaukee's, and they actually, Milwaukee even established a complete streets committee, and I talked with their implementer on this, and he said that has not worked out well. So that wasn't, and I didn't see a need to create another committee. We have plenty of committees in the city, and we have this committee. So I didn't even bother proposing that. But they also had this performance measures, these metrics that they incorporated into their policy. And I was not proposing this. And after talking with Sean, we both felt this is creating a, I mean, it's good to have accountability, obviously, and be responsive and assess how we're doing. But to require this to be done, I think was on it says on an annual basis with the staff resources we have, we felt we didn't want to commit staff to that. Obviously, that's up for you to determine, to advise. I didn't want to just delete it outright because I thought the idea was worth discussing, but we weren't recommending it.
When it comes to the use of will or shall, when you look at other resolutions that the city has done, is there consistency in how other resolutions are worded that could give you some direction one way or the other?
A good point. I don't know. I guess it's resolutions. We use resolutions for many different things. Oftentimes they are simply to, endorse a comprehensive plan or something like that, but they are used to articulate policies. And whether we've used shall and will statements, I'd have to check. I only write certain resolutions that are in my subject area that I work on, but I can't tell you what the city, maybe one of the alders could tell you that.
I don't recall.
I don't think I've ever noticed any pattern.
Any other comments?
Where
I
does
think-
this fit into the strategic plan for the city? We need safe streets in the city, but I was kind of following some of the comments on the University Avenue corridor. And, I do have a concern if we start throttling down all these access points through the city that the drivers will just go on to other streets, and then we're kind of in the same situation again. Trying to slow down traffic. Hopefully, maybe this should be incorporated into the strategic plan, and maybe it should be shall then.
I will check with our city administration team. They are, Abby is our point person in our department for the strategic plan, working with the city administrator. So I will, I think there is well, I don't know how that fits in. I don't know if the strategic plan addresses it. I have not been working on that, but I will pass that along, Ken. Thank you.
Does that mean we should defer this?
Well, I think what might be a good idea is this has got to go to Public Works and Plan Commission for them to take a look at it. So, I'm sure that Public Works is going to have some opinions. So I wonder if the thing to do would be refer this to Public Works and Plan Commission, get their thoughts and their notes to it, and then bring it back to us to kind of put that together and then make a recommendation to council. Mark, you have an opinion?
I like that idea. I think that certainly is appropriate to get their input as well, since this project was spearheaded by this committee and championed by council members, especially Alder Olson. I thought it was appropriate to obviously start here.
Well, then by referring to those two committees, then they'll mark it up however they want, but then it'll come to us to make any final edits, and then we can recommend it to council.
I think that's a great approach. And then if I see of ways to enhance it a little bit more organizationally, like I mentioned earlier, do I have your blessing to incorporate that as well, as long as I'm not changing substance of the policy?
I'm good with that. Anyone else have a thought?
I would do that before taking it to those committees.
Sounds good.
Abby Attoon has said she doesn't think the strategic plan mentions complete streets, or that there's a reference to it. but I will follow up with her on the discussion.
Are there any more questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to refer it to Public Works and Plan Commission.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second Dana.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And our next item.
Is-
Mark. Go ahead.
So I just have project updates. I didn't list anything under there. We've already talked about the North Mendota Trail. The only other comment I would add is that Dane County is expecting us with the North Mendota Trail to establish a grant agreement with them. And I have a template that I obtained, so I'm not going to go into detail with this since it's not specifically noticed, and I wasn't asking you to act on that anyway because I don't have it prepared. But I just wanted to let the council members know that that may go to the straight to the council. We're going to discuss the timing internally here, but all of these actions you took tonight are going to the council on Finance Committee and council on June 7th. So if we need to, we might have a grant agreement with Dane County at their request on that agenda as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Otherwise, any other projects that we have, the only one next is Bike to Work Week. I just wanted to let you know that the Sustainability Committee is providing funding, I think it was $250 to once again resume participation in the Madison Bike Week or Wisconsin Bike Week. I can't remember what the title is this year, but it's held the first full week of June. The city has participated for several years. Before the pandemic, we participated. And we have a bike commuter station, if you will, at the corner of Old Middleton Road and which is Elmwood and Stonefield. And that has Alder Nelson has helped with that in the past. Maybe Kathy has, I can't recall. But I know Jim Blodgett used to participate. You're all very welcome to participate in that. If you'd like more information, just let me know. Basically what we're doing is reaching out to local sponsors. Willie Street Co-op is going to sponsor a day and provide coffee and a treat. There's a couple local firms that have participated in the past, and we've been asking them, and they're interested in participating. So it's just there's a website, a local website that where all these activities in the Madison area are listed, and so we will have a presence on that website and do our own publicity in-house here, obviously with our listserv, to celebrate Wisconsin Bike Week.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, if there's nothing else and we are ready to adjourn, does somebody want to make a motion?
I will move to adjourn.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
No.
Mark, when do you think the next meeting will be?
I'm trying to get more regular meetings and more frequent meetings of this committee. We want to beef up its work. But why don't we discuss that since we're adjourned now? Why don't we? I'll
Yeah.
get back, but it's probably going to be, do you have a scheduling issue for the summer or?
No, I'm just kind of like to see this more on a regular basis, when I know I can predict when it's coming up.
And that's exactly what we want to do. There's going to be a new, we're going to be joined by another committee member or two.
Mhm.
The committee terms are up always. The 1st of June is our ordinance. So next meeting will be the organizational meeting for the next year.
Okay,
So,
And then, Mark, to that end, let's put an agenda item to discuss what week of the month might work best for everybody.
That's exactly what I was planning to do for that one, Dan. Just once we know who's on the committee and what day works best for the people and dogs, that's what we'll do.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mark.
thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Aye.
Right.